Ah, okay. So glad you're here. Glad I'm here. Actually, my I'm my name is Jeff Linn. I'm from Scotland. Our family goes back to 1107 in Scotland. Not me. I joined up later, but 1107 is quite a way back. And though I don't remember everything that they've told me, the things that I do remember, I'll pass on to you. And the things I don't remember, if you ask me, I'll make a point of getting back to you with the answer. So, what can I tell you? I came from our family came from a place called Kilwinning. It's a seaside port town, and it's closest to Ireland. So, a lot of the ferries will bring the tourists and and other people to Scotland, and they'll port up basically in Kilwinning. So, and it hasn't changed that much. It was about 7,000 people, I think, when it was at its peak, and I've checked recently, and it's still 7,000. So, apparently, every time somebody leaves town, or every time a baby is born, somebody leaves town. I'm not sure what that's about, but anyway, I'm going to tell you a bit about. First of all, does anybody have any questions for me, just at all? And we can get on with more of those as things go by. I'm a bagpiper, which is kind of an odd thing for somebody to do. And I'd like to involve you in some of this. So, do you have any idea where bagpipes came from? Anybody? I wasn't sure myself, so I looked it up, and it turns out that the Egyptians were the first people to have the bagpipes. It's talked about in the Bible when they talk about they played the pipes. They were talking about the bagpipes. And the other thing the Egyptians came up with was the kilt. And I thought, well, I got to think about that for a second. You don't ever see an Egyptian in pants back then, except on the walls of the pyramids. When they went inside and they were looking at the hieroglyphs, there'd be these guys doing this, but they were wearing kilts. There was no, they didn't have a tartan then. I don't think they had the facility for making full color tartans, but they were nonetheless kilts designed for war. And it became something that the Celtics took to. So pretty much all of the Celtic nations wear a kilt in one version or another. If you've ever heard the term "the whole 9 yards," when I was a teenager, I thought that had something to do with football. Actually, it has to do with the making of a kilt. And when they say the full 9 yards, that is the length of a full, proper-made kilt. This one, because it's a regimental kilt, is 9 yards. And there are some you can get online that are a good bit cheaper if you want to purchase a kilt. I think they start for around $50 in that bit. But if you want the full one, it's going to cost you a couple dollars. So yeah, the kilt basically is it's wrapped around me 3 times. It's 24-ounce wool, so it gets a bit steamy, which is why you don't see a lot of people wearing this uniform in midsummer. It's the piper takes to the field and piper down. It's never good. So anyway, I have taken to wearing it all year round because I'm Scottish and because I want to keep my heritage, which has been handed down to me. Basically, I'm standing on the shoulders of pipers who were much better than I, and history has just made it so it's not that long ago that they were around doing what they were doing. They played for wars. I play for birthday parties. It's kind of the big difference. And the reason for this suit and the way it looks, the way it does, with this ostrich feather hat, for instance, I came into a place a couple of months ago, and there were some children in attendance, and they were, it's one of the guys from The Wizard of Oz. That was one of the bad guys. And the reason for this look goes kind of deep into Scottish history, and that is, we didn't, first of all, we wanted to make a presence. So if somebody came to Scotland trying to invade us, for instance, they might be up on a lookout and look down and see a piper, for instance, standing there, and I'm 6'4", but the hat puts me at 7'5". So if they're looking through a spyglass and seeing that, they think, oh, these are great tall people. I don't know if we want to go through with this or not. And that's joined with the fact that, I don't know if you knew this or not, but the state, we'll call it the state, or the country flower is the, oh great, what a bad time for my memory to go out completely, is the thistle. Thank you. That's what's all over this uniform. I got it everywhere, and I can't remember sometimes. And that's because when they would try to invade us in the evening, for instance, after the sun went down, we'll get them at dark, they would think. And as they traipsed through the valleys, they would step on the thistles and would pretty much give away the point that we're being attacked. We better get our stuff together. So that's what that was about. I want to play something for you. Does anybody have a request, anything you'd like to hear right off the bat? Okay. Oh, I'll play that then. So this is the Beast. It's got 3 drones on it. These 2 are tenor drones. They play the same note. This is the bass drone, which plays the deeper note, obviously. And I play the melody on this little thing up here. And it used to be that these were made of goat bladders. I mean, up until not that long ago. I'm thinking when I first came to Columbus back in '93, there were still guys that said, we're going to use the goat bladder and everything because we want to be traditionalists. And I had a friend who had just made his own reeds, and they were plastic. And he couldn't get anybody to use them, so he took it on, gave it to me to try to sell it. And it's hard to change people when they are stuck to traditions. And making a bagpipe sound by using a goat bladder isn't really necessary in the output of the sound. So I ended up getting a Gore-Tex bag. And it works just the same, only I don't have to season it and try to get rid of the terrible smell that is around pipers most of the time. Unless I don't use cologne, then that's a whole other thing. So anyway, I'm going to do a real quick tune, just a bit of Amazing Grace. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to play a marching tune. Most people know it as the Gillette theme song. It's not that. You'll recognize it. I'm filling up this bag because that's basically my second set of lungs, which is necessary. For some reason, when they wrote Scottish tunes, they decided that there would be no stops anywhere in a Scottish tune. They would keep going till the end. So if I'm doing a bunch of Scottish tunes, I'm waiting for a breath somewhere. So. Yeah, exactly. It's occurred to me what I need is a bicycle pump would be great. Thank you. that was Scotland the Brave. Or if you're playing in Ireland, it's Ireland the Brave. No matter where you're playing, it's that country and the Brave. So it's kind of followed us around. It's one of the most popular tunes played by pipers anywhere. And another one, which I'll do right now, the uniform that I'm wearing looks most like the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, and we'll get into that in a second. And but what I'll do, I'm going to play just a verse of Amazing Grace. Oh, good. That's the idea. Water. So the pipes have been used to play for funerals since we started playing them, and a lot of people wonder, why do they play for funerals? Does anybody have an idea why the pipes are played? Two reasons. Pianos are too heavy, so that rules them out. And as far as the pipes go, back in the 1400s, when the clans were at war with each other, they realized that you could hear the pipes for 8 miles away in the Highlands, which is a pretty fair distance. So we assumed, as people would back then, if you could hear them from 8 miles away, you can probably hear them in heaven. So what we're doing when we're playing for a funeral is we're playing to heaven to gather that person's friends and ancestors to greet them home. And most people don't know that, so you're among an elite group now that know why that happens. The uniform of the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards was important to me because they were the premier bagpipers of Scotland for all time. And I just wanted to be part of that. Had I stayed in Scotland instead of coming to this country, I would have made every attempt possible to get in with the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, which during the day, they were tank operators. And then in the evening, they would be playing bagpipes. So that never happened. And in fact, I came to it lately enough that I just found out that the regiments, and this was probably 5 or 6 years ago, they used to have 11 or 12 regiments in Scotland, Argyll and Sutherland, the Black Watch, Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, the Dragoon Guards, that was another group. And what Scotland found out with the economy being what it was is that they could keep everybody housed and fed and clothed a lot less expensively if they put everybody in one place and called them one regiment. So it's now called the Scottish Regiment, and that's it. So the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards don't exist anymore, except for me standing here doing this. And I'm proud to do it. This uniform, I was trying to get it, it was early in January, and I called the Ministry of Defense, not knowing exactly who to call. And I called him and said, my name's Jeff Linn. I'm from Kilwinning, and I'm trying to get the uniform of the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, to which he hung up on me. So I thought, I'll give it a go again, because I'm Scottish. So called him up the next day and said, hi, this is Jeff Linn. I called yesterday. And he said, oh, you're the lad that called about the uniform. I said, aye. And he hung up on me again. So I thought, well, now it's on. Apparently, he didn't believe I was Scottish. So I thought, I'm going to call him every day at 10 o'clock till the day I die. So I called him day after day. He'd say, "Jeff," and I'd say, "Yep," and he'd hang up on me. And about the last part of March, he stopped. He didn't hang up on me. He said, "Is this Jeff?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I tell you what, I'm getting so tired of hearing your voice at 10 o'clock. I'll go ahead and do this if you're willing to pay what we're going to charge you for it. And if you swear to me you'll never call here again, I'll make sure this happens." I said, "That's fine with me." So he put the deal together, and he told me the price, and when I woke up, I gave him my credit card, and that's how it's worked. So I'm honored to be able to wear this uniform and everything that it represents for the Scottish people and my heritage. So, and I'll try to tell you about some of the parts of it. There are a lot of bogs which are like little teeny swamps, basically. And they're all over Scotland. So if you're running, trying to evade someone, the last thing you want is to step into a bog, because when you take your foot out of the bog, your shoe is still there. So you can't see because of at least this is my excuse for now, you can't see what I've done with my laces underneath the spats. But what we would do is we'd bring them around the front and the back and then back to the front again, going up your leg and tie them. So if your shoes came off, you'd be dragging them behind you, but you always had them. You could always put them on after you left that area. And let's see, that's what that is. There's some other things here. This is called a sporran. And is this thing loud? Am I really just booming right now? I'll back up just a bit because it seems really loud to me. Anyway, this is called a sporran, and what they used to do is there's a little pocket in back where they would keep, now we keep things like car keys and cell phones in it, but back then they kept oatmeal in it. And the reason for that is twofold at least. If they got hungry, they could reach in and grab some oatmeal and a little bit of water and have something to eat. By the same token, if they got stabbed or sliced by somebody else's sword, they could use it as a poultice, and it would help heal their wound. So it's kind of a good for all occasions type thing. I think of another thing here that's important. The hat. That we talked about it just briefly, where if the enemy was looking at you through a spyglass a couple of hills back, and they could see you in this thing, for all they could tell for sure is that we were very tall people. And they thought, I don't know if we want to go through with this or not. They appeared to be giants. So, and that was the point. The kilts make it look like your legs come up to here, which would be an interesting thing. And the bonnet elevates your head another 1.5 feet. Like I was saying, I'm 6'4", it puts me at 7'5". So that would look kind of intimidating to somebody with a spyglass a bit away thinking about tearing you down. Let's see, what else? This hat, I will say that the hat also has a hole in it, much like my head, just on this side. And the thing that was great about it, I realized, geez, I could keep my flask up here, and nobody would be any the wiser. And I did a wedding at St. Bridget's, right up the road from here. And the bride introduced me to her mom, which she was maybe that tall. And I made the mistake of saying, I'm so glad to meet you. And I reached down, and when I did, I caught the glint in the corner of my eye of silver, turning end over end out of my bonnet. And I'm thinking, well, great, there goes the secret. And it bounced on the cement probably 15 times, just bang, bang. And all these people are looking at it. He goes, oh, he must drink. Ooh. Scottish, that's what we do. It happens. So I stopped using it for my flask. We won't talk about where the flask might be, but it's not up here anymore. Did you have a question? I'm glad you asked that question. The Scots are very into bling. This little thing up here is it's a brooch, which you'd think it's just a brooch. But it's got a Kilgowran stone in the middle of it, which at the time Kilgowran stones were worth to them back then probably what silver's worth today. Not the most expensive stone, but a pretty expensive stone if you can get your hands on one. And it could have been because the military was using them to make all these stones. I don't know. It's of much less importance now, but the importance of it then was if I were on a horse and the horse gave out and I had to get another, I could pull the brooch off, which they called brooch in Scotland. I could have taken that off and possibly traded for the horse, for the brooch. It might have been worth that much money. So that's the reason for that. Plus, it holds this whole thing together. It used to be called, like right now, this is called a piper's plaid. But back in the day, it would have been called, I just had this a second ago. See, I'm getting to the point I'm going to have to start taking notes because I'm getting older. Turns out my memory's not so good. They used to call it a filibeg, and what that was it was the tartan laid out on the ground, and you would lay down on it to put it on you and wrap it around and get your belt, and it would lay down, and then you'd tie this corner of it like this. The thing about it is great because if you got cold, if it was wet and damp, water doesn't absorb into the kilt, so you can stay warm underneath it, which is nice. That's never been a problem in Columbus. It's more been how can I stay cool enough to wear this thing. So I'm still waiting for like a air conditioned would be good. I just got to figure out how to do it. So what else do we have? This is called a scan-do. It's a knife blade. It's only 3 inches long, and it's called the scan-do, which means dark blade. The reason for that would be if you had to go before somebody that maybe had a nefarious nature, he might call you to get on one knee, and as you got on one knee, it would be this knee, and then when you got up, you would just take the knife out of your sock, and it's just long enough to go into the windpipe, which was just enough to end any problems you might have with that guy. And you'd put it back in your sock and walk away before people realized what was happening. Any more questions? Anything? Yeah, that's a good question. I've never had that question before. That's a great question. Yeah, they would have to change where the position of the holes are in the fingering of a bagpipe. He asked, what did you ask? If the drones limited the number of keys. And because they're an A, yes, you're playing an A. That's like, though I suppose you could make another set of pipes that played in different tunes. But I think that's what they've done with the Irish pipes, which are called Uilleann pipes, elbow pipes. That's, how can I explain that? The Uilleann pipes have more of a plaintive sound. It's almost like somebody crying. They used it for instance, for the theme to the Titanic. There's just kind of a weepiness about it that kind of adds to the feeling that they're trying to create. And it's a beautiful instrument. I love it, but I can't play it. This only has 8 blasted notes, literally and figuratively. The Uilleann pipes that the Irish play are 3 octaves at least, and there's all kinds of additional pipes that you have to deal with keys, and it's all too confusing. Oh, thanks. I'm taking a medication that's making me dry out. If you've ever had that happen, you know what I'm talking about. So, yes, sir.
How long does it take you to get trapped?
That's a great question, too. When I started as a piper, I wouldn't wear any of this because it took so long to get into. And as I went on and I grew as a piper, it occurred to me that this is really the only uniform to wear because it means so much to the Scottish people. When I first started putting on it took a little over an hour. But it's because things have to be at exactly the right place to go on and fit, that they're not hanging or falling on the ground. This, for instance, has to be measured out so on this arm, so you've got it just the right length. It's supposed to come to the top of your spats. So that's as close as I could get with a mirror. So, and they didn't have mirrors then. I don't know how they figured that out. So, yes. The way the pipes are set up, the first thing to fill up is the drones. So it would be kind of hard to do that. They do it in recordings all the time. Like I'm working on a CD right now. And I basically put what do they call it? It's like it's a cork. Basically, I cork off the ends of the drones so you don't hear them. So I can play the melody of whatever song I'm playing, and then we can put the drones in later. It's hard to record the pipes because you've got some of the stuff back there and some of the stuff up here. And when you turn around, it all changes, like when I turn to walk away. Have any of you ever been to a funeral where they played the bagpipes? You have been? I will do that. Telling the story, boy, if I can remember it. There's a funny story about this song. It's called. I hope this is the one you're talking about. It's Skyboat, and it's. I'm trying to think if I should just play it or not. I could probably play it better than I explain it. Let me do that. Have any of you seen a television program called The Outlander? Okay, good. That's why you asked that question, probably. So, the thing with Outlander, if you hadn't seen the show, just a little bit about what happens. It's 1944 about, and a woman who is on her honeymoon to Scotland goes to Stonehenge, or someplace that looks kind of like Stonehenge, and she makes the mistake of leaning against one of the stones. And as soon as she did, she fell, and when she woke up, she was in Scotland, but only like in the 14th century, much to her surprise. So that starts the show, and it's a little violent because Scotland was back then. And but it's a pretty good show. Have you seen the whole thing so far? Most of it? Yeah, it's pretty good. Actually, what happened is this is right after COVID happened. I was playing a funeral at the Dublin Cemetery, which is downtown Dublin, and there was nobody out. It was just the people at this funeral and me. And I played for the funeral, and they all left. So it was me in a pretty much ghost town of a city. So I walked down, and I was dressed this way, and I walked down into the middle of the street, and I thought, what the heck? I can walk down the middle of the street, no one's driving. So I'm walking in the car, a car turns the corner, and she slams on her brakes, laughing. She said, "You look unbelievable. You look like you're from a different place and time." I said, "You're not going to believe what happened to me. I just leaned against a stone and I'm here. So I don't know what's going on, and where are the horses that you're driving? I don't even see them." she fell over laughing. She'd seen the show. It would have been really bad if she hadn't seen the show and she'd think I was crazy as a bat. I was going to play something for you, but I don't remember what it was. It must have been good, though. What's that? Oh, the Outlander thing. Okay. Might have to take you with me from now on when I do these things. Thank you. That was the one you wanted, right? Oh, good. Perfect. You had asked about the medals that I wore. And aside from the brooch, which has been handed down from my father, these are Air Force medals because I was with the United States Air Force back in 1968 to 72. And it was good. It was a great experience. Glad I'm not doing it right now, but it was a great experience at the time. Let's see. I was going to tell you about this jacket. This isn't the usual jacket that's worn. Certainly not to war. It's got this additional, aside from the regular parts of the uniform, it's got this hand, what do they call it when you do it by hand? It's embroidered, hand embroidered. Thistles on the sleeves, the size of it goes down the jacket and back. I don't know if you see that or not. But anyway, the point of it is this is a ceremonial jacket, and it's only worn during certain events in the UK, things like royal weddings and other things of high state. It's like the ceremonial jacket. That's all I can say about it. It's an important thing to have if you're going to be doing what I'm doing, because I've played for all kinds of people. Actually played for God, what the heck is her name? Well, can't think of it, but she was working with Donald Trump at the time. So I was playing for Donald Trump's mother, is what it amounted to. And during one of his rallies, it was kind of an event for me I couldn't believe. What's great, and I don't know what your politics are or if you like Donald Trump or hated him. The thing that was amazing is that I wrote him because I had written a song about him, and I highlighted that and I sent it to him, and he actually listened to it, but he stopped messaging the free world to talk to me for just a moment, just to say thank you for your service to your country and thank you for your music, which to me was amazing. Everything stopped so he could do that, and he didn't have to. Anyway, that's just me being dazzled by somebody. Trying to think what else I can tell you about this that I haven't told you already. Yes?
Can you maybe tell them a bit about the higher games that will be?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about the Highland Games that's interesting is I've never been able to go to one, though I know what they do at all of them. I've always been playing, so I've never been able to get away to see the games. But they do things like, are you familiar with the caber? Have you ever heard of that? The caber, yeah, the caber toss. That's pretty popular, which I'd be dead by now. I couldn't do it. I can't imagine. The guys that do that are pretty hefty guys. They know what they're doing. But they have these games all over the United States. They have them all over everywhere. Actually, anywhere where there are pipers playing, they have games. And yeah, it's kind of a fun thing. I'm sorry I've missed those. They're very entertaining. So, any other questions?
Do the pipes on your bag, can they be extended to get a different tone? Are they adjustable?
That's a good question too. They're actually adjustable to a point, but not enough that you could actually change them to a different key. Getting back to the question we had earlier. But what you can do is, because I've had this happen, I was going to play for a Catholic church, and they wanted to know if I had the extenders in them so that I could match the tone of the organist, which I did, luckily, because I usually will tell them just I can't play with another instrument because we're tuned differently. Every other instrument in the Western Hemisphere, anyway, tunes to A440. And the bagpipes tune to A476. Just enough to make you sound wildly out of tune if you're playing with somebody at 440. So they've got these little extenders that you can put in there that raises it enough that you can play. And that works out. I've done it once and wasn't that crazy about it myself. So, but they do it. It does happen. Oh, somebody asked me what clan I was from. My last name is Linn, and it's not a big family name apparently for a lot of people. So there weren't enough clan people to get together that we could make our own tartan. So we lived next door to another group of people, and what they did, I'm trying to think of their name now. I wanted to say Lawson, but that's not it. Could be Lairs. But what they said was basically, since you're so small and you don't have enough people to get the whole thing going, really, so we'll take care of you. You can wear our tartan, and you'll fight our wars with us, and in return, we'll protect you. And that's what that was about. It was paying feudal rights to them to be able to live where we lived, and that was great. I think what happened, though, is when there was an element in the Scottish history where they had to... this is embarrassing. I can't tell you what that was called either. It was called the clearings, or the clearances. And if you were living in Scotland then, it was a bad time to be living there. The Englanders were doing everything they could to wipe us off the face of the earth, basically. So everyone took refuge wherever they could and left Scotland if they had to. My granddad was one who left because he felt he had to. And when he came here, he signed up for to protect the country, and when he did, he used a different name. He used a fictitious name because he was still afraid that they would track him down from Scotland and take him out. This was an effort by the English to get rid of the Scots. They didn't like us to begin with. So if your name was McTavish, they would come through and say, your name is now Green. And they would just change your name to whatever suited their fancy at the time. And it's miraculous that the Scottish the whole Scottish, everything about it, that it survived this long because it was certainly against all odds. They didn't want it to happen. But we're still here, playing the pipes. Maybe that was the whole reason. Do any of you not like the pipes at all? I mean, there are some people that just can't stand them. And the reason is probably because they've heard somebody play them really poorly, where it sounds like a cat being strangled. Yes, sir. Start playing, you're wondering where they spent their lives, what happened to you to go through that, and you just try to get around to as many people. My goal in life at this point is to play for as many people as I can possibly play for, and play the pipes correctly. And correctly, there are people that would take issue with my version of correctly. Correctly for me is playing the tune so that other people can recognize the tune you're playing. That's all I'm asking for. It's kind of a low bar. The people that play pibroch, which is the classical music of the bagpipes, there actually is such a thing. They believe that that's the only way you can play bagpipes. And if you don't play pibroch, then you're not really a bagpiper. According to them, I'm not a bagpiper. We can share some words and see where that got us, but it's just your definition. I feel that most of the people that I play for are just like me, just common, ordinary, everyday people that want to hear something that their heritage produced. So if I can play Amazing Grace or something on the bagpipes that hits them where they live, then I've done my job. And I'm not looking to be the technically.
Use your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can. I'm sorry. Where was I? I forget. Wherever I was, though, the point was. Thank you for reminding me of that. I'm not used to using a mic. I usually just play, but because of this insidious Chinese thing, I have to use one of these. I could play something. Good idea. Going to play an old tune. I hope you. This is an old Scottish tune, but you've probably all heard it at one time or another. Feel free to join in. It just makes me think of the homeland. What?
Did you ever play it again?
Never have. Never have. Not that I wouldn't. I never have. That was reminding me of something. I was trying to think. Yes, sir.
Are you pressing on the longer bag? Does that impact it too?
It does. And I got to use this. Here's the story with this. If you blow it up to its fullest, you can then use that as your lungs. And as you run out of air in this, and you know you're going to have to take a breath pretty soon, you take the breath ahead of time to blow them up, to keep them blown up, so you can keep taking breaths. Trying to think of how this works. The problem is, if you're running low and you've got to press on the side of the bag to make a sound, to make a note, if you press too hardly, everything goes sharp. If you don't press hard enough, everything goes flat. So I think that's why they say they're so hard to play, because you have to keep on that. But really, they're not that hard to play. I think people say it's hard to play, and if you indeed had to use a goat bladder and some of the other stuff that the traditionalists use, it would be hard to play. I've got a great story for you about a piper that you've seen and you didn't know you saw him. But when John F. Kennedy passed away, they had a regiment, it was the Black Watch, and the guy who was leading the Black Watch at the time was named Sandy Hayne. And he was from Scotland. He'd played for a regiment there. And what happened was he played for the president and ended up moving to Cleveland, where his kids were living. So they had asked him if he was going back to Scotland. He said, yeah, I'm going back to play for a couple of friends' weddings. And I had gotten in touch with him before he left and sold him some of these synthetic reeds, the ones that I use, that sound like cane, but they're not really cane. They're a plastic, and his name is Malcolm McCall, I think. Anyway, the point is, he makes these things, and they sound great. I can use these for up to a year, whereas a regular cane reed is good for maybe 3 or 4 months. So I'm still using this. This is kind of an older one. The point is, traditionalists don't like it when you veer off what everyone's been using for years, which was cane. So when he got there, he didn't say anything, but he played the wedding. And when he got done with the wedding, he asked them how it sounded. And they said, oh, you sound great as ever, Sandy. You sounded wonderful. And he took the reed out and showed them that it was plastic, and they were aghast that he wasn't using traditional stuff. But it worked out well, so nobody cared. I was going to play a tune for you, I think. Did anybody have a question? Okay. Oh, yeah.
Do you have other kinds of kilts you wear?
I do, but I haven't had an occasion to wear them. I did have it's a lighter gauge kilt, and I was going to get married. Actually, I did get married, but we were looking for a place to get married, and I thought we could do it in Ohio, in Columbus. So my wife-to-be and I got all dressed up, and I was wearing my regular kilt, and went downtown to the 6th floor of this office building where you have to go for wedding licenses. Went up and saw the guy, and he said, well, you're going to have to show me something before I can marry you. You need the case numbers. If you've ever been married before, you need the case numbers of the divorces. And I'm thinking, I don't remember their names, let alone their case numbers. It's not good. My memory's never been that good. So we forgot about getting married in Columbus and decided instead to go to Nags Head, North Carolina. They had just called me and asked if I could play for their St. Patty's Day parade. I said, I certainly can, but I've got a question for you. Can I get married there? He said, that's what people do here. I thought, okay, that's perfect. Got there at 15 minutes until 5 on a Friday, at which point if we didn't get to the magistrate in time, we wouldn't be able to get married. And we would have had to sleep in different bedrooms, and it would have been terrible. Anyway, we got there, and they told us the problem. So I ran across the street to get somebody to be a witness for me. Got that to happen, and they came back across the street. And because the magistrate was at the jail, we ended up getting married in jail, which is a perfect thing for a Scottish piper to be married in. It's only fitting. So it's a great place. If you've never been to Nags Head, North Carolina, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. So I wanted to play you something else. The Queen of England stays in Scotland at Balmoral Castle. And she has an alarm clock, but the alarm clock is a piper that stands under her window and plays a tune called Highland Cathedral. It's also the tune that I would use if I were piping a bride down the aisle. It's done to Highland Cathedral, which is the sky above us. So at 9 o'clock every morning, when the Queen is in Scotland, she's awakened by a piper at the foot of her window playing this. Been reduced to an alarm clock. Yikes. It turns out this uniform on the inside, when you're wearing it inside, is just as hot as it is when you're wearing it outside. I got to remember where I am every once in a while. So, does anybody have any questions about anything at all? Yes, sir. Well, if you hit Schottenstein's just in time. No, it's the bagpipes. They start, if you look on eBay, they start at about $350. But the ones that are sold for $350 are the ones that are made in, oh shoot, what's the name of that place? I can't think of the name of the country right now. What's that? China, yes. Those are the guys. They make them cheaply, and they take an elated ice pick, basically, and to chisel out the inside of the holes for the air to pass through, which is not good because you don't have a nice, smooth flow of air, so it sounds terrible if you can even play them at all. And a lot of them are sold for $300, which is a sizable bit of money. To $300, you'd think they would give you something, but they're pretty bad. Pakistan is the prime offender. So if you ever are looking online and you see a set of pipes for $300, don't get them unless you're just looking for expensive firewood. That's about all they're worth. A good set of pipes start at about $1,200 today. And some of the real ornate pipes go for as much as $20,000, $30,000. But being just a common guy, where am I? Oh, here we go. These pipes, I used to have pipes that just had ivory here and here. Ivory was illegal. It wasn't really ivory. It was just the color of ivory, like this. Is the color of ivory, but not ivory. And these pipes have, they've done etching on them, so they have thistles all over them. And the silver on this is amazing, the time we live in. But they've taken the silver and they've fused it with something that keeps it bright and silvery. It won't ever tarnish. If it starts getting a little gray looking, you can just hit it with a towel and it looks like it's brand new again. They didn't used to have that. So once again, we lucked out, living when we're living. It's the most incredible time ever. My granddad had lived through a period, the period of his life covered the time from the time of having just radios, having no more than 2 cars in the state of Ohio, and they hit each other. They hadn't figured out who zigs and who zags, and they both just head on into each other. But they were Model Ts, so nobody got too badly hurt. Can't think any more in that story. There was something. Anybody have any other questions? Yes, sir. You know, okay. I was going for the inside. What was okay? He'd ask another question about the sporn, and it must certainly be worth something other than just housing your oatmeal needs for the day, which is true. First of all, it's located in a great position to help protect your private bits should swords be coming down. And the other thing is, all of this is horsehair, and particularly it's horsehair from Clydesdales. So they used to have grays, which is one form of Clydesdales, but the Clydesdales that you've all known and seen every Super Bowl, the black hair is from their manes, and they trim them every year. They shore them to make sure they get enough to make sporns. And the white in this one is for, it's called the Swingin' Six, and it was because there were 6 primary regiments that were the top dogs, and the people that were in those regiments could wear this if they liked. But if I had on the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards sporn, it would be that have blonde hair here, but that also have a streak of red going through it. And the red on each of the tassels was for those that had bled with Wallace. Have any of you seen the movie Braveheart? Okay, I'm just going to give you a real quick insight into a couple of problems they had with Braveheart. One of them was when they were showing young William Wallace that his dad was being cared for. His father passed away. For those of you who hadn't seen it, it was in a battle, and they were burying him. So young William Wallace was watching the burial of his father, and the piper was there in the woods, and it's introduced as they were playing outlawed tunes on outlawed pipes for his funeral. And what they were playing was Amazing Grace, which when they did their research on the history of Amazing Grace, it didn't exist when William Wallace was just starting out. So they've got a bagpiper playing the Great Highland Pipes, which are what these are called, but the sound coming out on the movie now is the Irish bagpipes, the Uilleann pipes. They had to put something in, and they didn't have enough time to figure out what it would be, so they just went with the Uilleann pipes. So you see a guy with these pipes playing something that he couldn't possibly have played because they were Ireland. It's an Ireland pipe. Another thing that was kind of interesting, just in passing, if you look at the crowd scenes where they're showing the people with their makeup on, they're wearing the blue face, and the camera kind of pans down the end, and if you watch the camera pans, there's a guy with a Giants baseball hat on, which I'm pretty sure they weren't around then. And the last one was during the Battle of Stirling. If you watch that again, it looks like everything's going fine, and nobody sees these things when you're watching the movie because your eyes are directed to a different place on the screen, so you don't bother even looking for this stuff. But there was a guy that drove as they're panning to one side of the field, there's a white limousine going across the hill. And it was a PA, it was a guy that was supposed to be bringing directions to the producer about where the next shot was to be taken and didn't realize he'd driven right through the movie. And he still drives through the movie to this day. Might be the only job he has, but he does that. This is about all I've got to share with you, I'm afraid to say, unless I come back some other day and do it. And I'll play some more tunes. Great idea. I want to thank you for being here. It's been a treat for me to be able to talk to you. This is the first one of these I've done this year, and I had a health issue last year, and I had some cancer. Didn't know if I was going to get over that or not. So the fact that I'm here at all, I'm just glad to see everybody. Glad to see anybody at this point. But I'm glad I was here, and I'm sorry for the things I've forgotten. I'll come back and tell you later, maybe when I come back the next time. But thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Jeff, I've got two questions for you. So first one is I've got a couple residents who want to get their picture taken with you. You okay with that?
Yeah, anybody wants a picture taken with me, I'm honored to do that, and against the uniform of the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards. The other thing I'll say about that is it's the only one like it in the country. There may be one other, but we're not sure about it. So this may be the only one in the country. I'm sorry? The Royal Scots Dragoon Guards. I've got a card that has it on it. Well, thank you very much. I was going to play something. Yes. It's something that I didn't realize how it sounded until I heard it myself. There's a tune called Going Home that most pipers play if they're playing a funeral. It'll be the last song they'll play. And they'll step up to the center of where everyone is looking, and they'll face the front, and they'll start playing this song, but they only play the first stanza facing the front or facing the casket. And when I'm done doing that, or when anyone's done doing that, we would turn and do a 180 and walk away. So you hear the pipes fade away into the distance. I didn't realize how much they changed, how much the sound changes, until somebody sent me a video of that happening. And if you've never heard it, I'll do it now. And what I'll do is, I'm going to come up from this side. I'm going to come up onto the stage playing, and then I'll turn and walk away. See if you notice the difference. First time I heard it, my hair kind of stood up on end because I wasn't really ready for it.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.